Hey guys, Poro here with another video. This time we will be tier listing all of the junglers at Worlds 2025. Just got done the top lane tier list, we're going to be doing the jungle list now. If you guys hear some extra noise apart from me talking, that's because I'm recording this at kind of a bad time. It's like 7 in the morning, so there's a bunch of cars outside whizzing by, going to work and stuff, so if you hear any of that noise, then sorry about that in advance. Let me just cover the bases real quick before we start the tier list. So I have 3 tier lists open. You can see I have 3 tabs here at the top. The first one is going to be my overall tier list, and then the second and third one. Second one is for their ceiling, how good I think they can be if they play at their best, and then the floor tier list. So realistically, how bad do I think they could show up at this Worlds? So general tier list, ceiling, floor. The way that I do this is that for the most part, I care the most about what happened in Split 3 playoffs. To me, Split 3 playoffs is the most important factor for this tier list. Then right behind that is Split 3 regular season, so I really care about what just happened. Then after that, I care about how they've looked at past internationals. I think that to a certain degree, how you perform at an international does actually matter. There are players who step up internationally, and there are some players who panic and choke. So I do take that into consideration. And then behind that, less important, but I still consider it, is what happened the rest of the year. So what happened in Split 2 regular season, what happened in Split 1 regular season. I think it's important to look at a large sample size of games. That said, I still think it is the most important to look at Split 3 because I think that by looking at the most recent games, you get the best read at how much that player and their team has improved over the course of the year, because a lot of teams change rosters in between off seasons. So teams usually start out at their worst and then improve over the course of the year. So I like to care the most about how they looked right at the end. So with those general ground rules out of the way, let's get into this tier list. So the first player to look at is Canyon. And for a lot of people, Canyon is probably the best jungler at the tournament. I mean, like, he's the greatest jungler of all time, in my opinion. He shows up at a lot of different worlds. There pretty much hasn't been an international tournament where Canyon hasn't shown up. That said, Canyon has had a weaker Split 3 and playoffs. For the past month and a half or so of actual play, Canyon has become a very inactive jungler. He's been very AFK. Now, to his credit, his lanes are really, really good. So all of the time, he doesn't actually have to do stuff. So Canyon has been spending a lot of these games just kind of full clearing on repeat, not really going for ganks, playing to minimize mistakes because he believes in his team and himself to just outmaneuver the other teams later on. The problem is that we have seen Gen G lose some games. When they played against T1 in playoffs, T1 looked like the better team in games 1, 2, and 3. They obviously dropped a series to KT. They had some regular season individual game losses here and there. And pretty much whenever Gen G loses, they lose because they fall too far behind early game. And a big reason why they fall behind early game is because Canyon's not doing anything to help his lanes out. For the most part, Gen G's laners are kind of left on their own, and Canyon will only go for plays that are very obvious or plays that happen to look good when they're on the path of his full clear. So I think that Canyon obviously has an S tier ceiling. I mean, we can drag Canyon up to S. He's obviously a great jungler. His ceiling is best jungler in the world. When he's playing at his best, he can completely take over a game, is an amazing playmaker. But for his floor, I mean, like, I don't know. Like the past month and a half has just not been impressive. Like, I want to say that Canyon is like a B tier floor at this tournament. If Canyon ends up just turning up to Worlds the same way that he looked in the back half of LCK and also LCK playoffs, then he's just not going to look that good. I thought he was worse than Peanut in finals. I thought he was way worse than Owner. I thought that he was worse than Cuz in the series that KT won. I don't think that Canyon has looked good lately. So Canyon ceiling S, floor B. Overall, I will put Canyon, I'll put him in A for now. There's a chance I might move him down to the top of B, just because, like, I really care about Split 3 performance. I know that Canyon had a pretty solid MSI. He had a few super pop-off games at MSI. I know that he shows up to every Worlds that he attends, but there's a chance I might move him to the top of B. And also, I want to mention right now that this pool of junglers that we have here, this pool of junglers representing at Worlds 2025, is probably the best pool of junglers we've ever had at Worlds before. I think that every single region basically sent their best junglers. Like, let me think about this for a second. LCP doesn't have Levi. Like, I think you could slip Levi in here, but for the most part, the LCP sent junglers that are all top half. I think LEC sent their best junglers. Like, you could slip Yike in there for sure, but Yike definitely. The entirety of KC did not have the split three that they wanted to have, so I think it would be fair to say that the best three performing junglers in LEC were those three. I mean, like, either way, the jungle pool that these teams sent are just tremendously good. So at some point we're gonna have to decide, like, okay, who's the worst jungler here? Who's the second worst jungler here? But I mean, I really think that all of these junglers are good players. Okay, next up we've got Peanut. Peanut, I think his ceiling is not at the level of Canyon. His mechanics are not as good as they used to be. He makes a lot of mechanical mistakes in games. Because of that, sometimes he'll just have random disaster early games. Sometimes he'll int. I think during Split 3 regular season, he was not looking very good. That said, when playoffs rolled around, it's almost like we got vintage Peanut back. I mean, like, Peanut played really well during LCK playoffs. You know, Peanut is a playmaker first. Canyon plays for himself. He likes to get his camps. He likes to get golden XP leads. He wants to have an influence later on in the game. Peanut is more of a lane first jungler. Now, to be fair, I mean, like, Peanut has much more dynamic laners. He has Zeus and Zeka. These are laners who really want to play aggressive, really want to get ahead. Whereas Keen and Chovy are more on the consistent side. They want to just lane very well and then try to beat you later. So two very different teams. But overall, throughout Peanut's career, he's always been more of a lane first jungler. He likes to play for his lanes early. He likes to get them ahead. So two kind of clashing styles here, but I do think that Peanut's ceiling is lower just because he's at the tail end of his career. I mean, like, this is his last dance. He is going to retire and go to the military after this world, so this is his last chance to win. I'm hoping that he shows up the way that he did in LCK playoffs, because I was really impressed with how he showed up in LCK playoffs, and I would love for him to have that kind of performance at his final world championship. If he plays like that, I think HLE have a real shot to win it all. Floor? I mean, Canyon had a pretty bad regular season. If we're, like, I think that Canyon's floor is actually pretty bad for LCK standards. So I think it would be fair to say that Peanut's floor is right there next to Canyon's floor, because at the end of the day, even if Peanut is playing disaster games, I think that he is still a very smart player. I think his baseline level, he'll always be able to find advantages for his lanes. He's able to make all of his lanes comfortable at all times. So I would be comfortable saying that Peanut has a relatively similar floor to Canyon, even though that sounds kind of funny to say out loud. And I will put Peanut, he'll probably end up bottom of A. And I guess, I mean, I do really think that Peanut was the better jungler against Canyon in Grand Finals, even though Genji got the 3-1. But I will put Peanut below Canyon, and I guess that cements that I'll be leaving Canyon in A tier, because I don't want to move Peanut down to B tier. And I also think that Canyon is probably a little bit better than Peanut, so Canyon will also be A tier. All right, Cuz. So we saw Cuz play absolutely out of his mind in the best of 5 against Genji. I think that Cuz is a player with a lot of potential to be very, very good. He is also similar to Peanut in the sense that he likes to play for his lanes. I think that Cuz has always been very, very good at getting his team early leads. That, in fact, probably even better than Peanut. I think that Cuz is the best jungler. Yeah, sure, he's the best jungler in the world when it comes to getting his lanes ahead early. I'm okay with saying that. He is the Smite 50-50 GOAT. So if there's an even Smite ever, like if both junglers have a relatively even chance to win a Smite fight, Cuz will always win it. Like, this guy is actually just a god of Smite fights. I think that KT is mostly just Cuz and BDD running the show, and then everybody else is kind of, they either have their own specific role to play or they're not really a world's caliber player. So I think ceiling wise, I mean, we saw about the best Cuz can play. Now the question is, can he do that consistently every series, and is that ceiling S tier to begin with? I think maybe the way that he played against Genji was an S tier performance. I mean, yeah, the way that he played against Genji was an S tier performance. But do I think that Cuz at his best can do that consistently? Probably not. I'll say that Cuz's ceiling is like top of A. But I also think that Cuz, Cuz, again, he is a very solid jungler. I would say that his floor, this looks really weird. Okay, I'm telling you, Canyon played really, really bad in regular season and in playoffs. You just have to trust me. If you're somebody who doesn't watch LCK and you just think of Canyon as the GOAT because he's always amazing every time you do see him, I'm telling you, please just trust me. Kenyon was not that good in regular season and in playoffs. So I'm going to put Cuz's floor as above Kenyon. I think that is fair for 2025 summer split standards. I think it is fair to say that Cuz has a higher floor than Kenyon. Where do I want to put him for my overall ranking? They're gonna kill me. I already know it. The LCK fans are gonna kill me. I don't care. Okay. Listen. I think that Cuz is okay. I think Cuz is team gapped. His team is very bad, and when your team is bad, it makes you look bad. God, I mean, it looks so weird. This is like it's the same thing as when I did my top lane tier list when I put Bin in B tier. It looks weird, but it's what my heart is telling me. Like I really think that Canyon was just not good enough to deserve to be above some of these other really good junglers. Doesn't look right, but I'll go with it. I'll go with it. All right, owner ceiling, bam. Every single time that owner shows up to a world championship, whenever T1 is winning, owner is always the best jungler in the world. Like when this guy is on fire, he is an insane player. And I also think that owner was the best performing jungler for, well, I guess that's spoilers. Yeah, sure, whatever. That's spoilers. Owner S tier. And floor, I'll go owner A. Yeah. So owner in Split 3 playoffs was playing out of his mind. I know that T1 ended in fourth, but that's because literally everyone on T1, except for maybe Keria sometimes, was slacking, and then owner was hard 1v9 every single game. Like this guy was just playing so well. I think it would be more than fair to say that for the back half of Split 3 and for Split 3 playoffs, owner was definitely the best jungler in the LCK. I'm down for that. Ceiling, yeah. He's always a massive riser. I think that he was playing close to his ceiling in those playoffs, and now he just needs the rest of the team to catch up with him. And then also floor, I mean, yeah, I'm down with putting owner in A for his floor. I think that owner obviously has moments in his career where he hasn't been as good, but if we're looking at this year as a whole for the sample size, I mean, like everybody on T1 had stretches of time where they were bad, right? Guma had his issues in Split 1 and Split 2. Keria also had issues around that time because it's hard to play with two rotating bot laners like that. Faker has been having issues with his laning on and off. Doran, obviously. But the one player on T1 who has been pretty elite for the entire course of the year is owner. Like Split 2 playoffs, Split 3 playoffs, MSI. He's been really good across all of it. So I'm down to say that I think that the worst he can look is probably still just A tier. I would be really shocked if owner played any worse than that. That'll be owner, and that is the LCK. Moving on to the LCP. So, Junja is an international riser. He was great at first stand. Every single time he locked in Skarner, it looked amazing. I just thought he was the Skarner go to that tournament. Then he went to MSI. He's doing insane stuff on like Trundle and Sejuani and whatever. My main issue with Junja and putting him on a little bit of a higher level is that when I watched LCP, all of regular season and in playoffs, I wasn't as impressed with Junja as I wanted to be. I thought that Junja looked worse in Split 3 than he did in Split 2. He was fighting a lot of objectives that he shouldn't have been fighting. He was going for invades that he shouldn't have been going for. Was dying on some timers. Had some pretty mediocre games. There were still flashes of him being insane. I still think he was the best jungler in the LCP by a pretty large margin. But he wasn't as good as I wanted him to be. So ceiling, I think he hit his ceiling at MSI and at first stand. His ceiling is A tier. How far in A tier do I think his ceiling is? I mean, I think if Junja is playing at his best, he's probably better than Peanut at his best, so I would be okay with that. Floor, though? I mean, for floor, I'm either going to go top of C or bottom of B. Like, I'm trying to think. He had some really, really gross games. Game 1 against PSG in LCP playoffs, I thought Junja played pretty bad. That was the game that they ended up losing. And then I don't remember which game it was, but there was a game against Secret Wales. Maybe it was also game 1. Whatever game it was that his toe played Lee Sin, I thought that Junja did not play well in that game, even though CFO ended up winning. So there were a couple of games that Junja played that I was just not happy with, where I thought that he was playing more like a mediocre jungler. Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, like, I think there is a world where you would end up looking at something like this, which is also why I have Peanut and B for my floors, because I think there's a world where Peanut plays worse than Junja. But I think if you ran this tournament 100 times, then more often than not, Peanut would be able to find a form similar to how he looked in LCK playoffs, and then he'll just be better than what Junja can do. Karsa is an interesting case. So he is reaching the tail end of his career in terms of his individual mechanical skill. I think that because of that, his ceiling is not very high, at least compared to some of the other junglers. Again, this is a very elite jungle class. I think that pretty much every single jungler at this tournament is good. For Karsa, in Split 2, he was not playing that particularly well. And then in Split 3, for the first 8 games, he was playing really badly. But then what ended up happening was that PSG completely changed their game plan. Because first, they subbed out Fofo and brought in Maple. And then what they realized really quickly was that Maple is not able to take on as much of the damage percentage and carry role that Fofo is. So they struggled a lot in their first few games. And then after those first 8 games where they went 0-8, they were like, okay, something needs to change. Clearly Maple is more of a role player, so we need to allocate more resources somewhere else. Somebody else has to step up and carry the team. And they chose Karsa. So what they started doing was that they would play around Karsa in the jungle. They would track the enemy jungle timers meticulously and then invade on basically every timer where it looked good. So any time that PSG's lanes were pushing and Karsa was in a decent spot, he would invade and he would just contest the camp. He would try to win Smite 50/50s on red buff, and he would invade Krugs and Raptors, and he would be super active, and he would fight, and that's how PSG would get their leads, and that's why they started winning games. So I think that when Karsa's playing like that, it actually looks really good. I would say that Karsa's ceiling is probably a low B. The problem is that Karsa also just has decayed a lot as a player. He has some really bad games. He's had a few games this year where he solo lost it on his own, where he was the main issue. So I think that there is a chance that Karsa could be really, really bad at this tournament. I will put his floor in D. And overall, I would say that Karsa is probably going to be a C tier jungler. Like, he's still smart. He still makes good plays. He still has good ideas. But if you are hoping to see the Karsa that you remember from back when he was in LPL, this is not that Karsa anymore. He is not that good anymore. Histo, probably one of my favorite players at the tournament. I really like watching Histo play. He has a very unique champion pool, so he has super high prio on Nocturne is the champion that he really likes to pick. So if you leave Nocturne up, I mean, Histo's down to first pick Nocturne on blue side in game 1. Like, that's how much he likes Nocturne. He also plays a lot of interesting champions. Like, he was the best Qiyana player in LCP, in my opinion. Even better than Junja was. Both Junja and Histo were pretty good at Qiyana. I thought that Histo was better. He has a pretty solid Wukong. I think he's the best Lee Sin in LCP. So there's a lot of, I mean, obviously Wukong's not that much of a mechanical champion, but there's a lot of mechanical-based champions that Histo is really good at because he has really good mechanics. He is very good at getting leads early. He's good at getting his team ahead early. He's also prone to throwing his leads. He's young. He is inexperienced. He makes some stupid mistakes sometimes. It is what it is. I think if Histo shows up, he has a ceiling similar to Junja. I truly believe that. I think that this guy could be really, really good. I would put his ceiling like bottom of A tier. His floor, I think he could totally just bow out and not be good. There's a chance that he just walks in, gets outclassed by half the junglers, and then against the other half, he throws his lead and loses. Secret Whales is also pretty prone to choking for the first 2 splits. I could totally see something like that happening. I mean, I'm probably a little bit biased just because Histo is my guy. So I'm going to say that Histo's floor, I'll put bottom of C. And then overall, I will move Histo into B tier, but behind Junja. Again, I thought that Junja was definitely the best jungler in the LCP. I just have a lot of faith in Histo. I think he will play pretty well. Then we've got the LEC, Razork. This is really interesting. This is kind of a similar problem to Oscar, where Razork played a certain way for the majority of the year and the majority of his career that I did not like. And then against KC, he just randomly found a form that I'd never seen from him, at least not for a very long time, that I was very impressed by. So first, let's talk about what Razork is good at. Razork is a pretty good early game player. I can't say he's the best early game jungler in the LEC anymore because Elyoya was the best early game jungler this year, but Razork usually is a very good early game jungler. He's good at getting leads, he's an aggressive player, he likes to invade, he likes to do all of that stuff. The problem is that in the past, what Fnatic would do is that Razork would always, he never knew when enough was enough. He would get a lead, and then he would go for a play and get a bigger lead, and then he would get a bigger lead, and then he would never settle, and he would go for another play, and this time the play would be bad, and then he threw his entire lead, and now all of a sudden the lead is gone and Fnatic is going to lose. That's the type of player that Razork was. It's one of the main reasons why Fnatic was never able to find great success at internationals in the past couple of years. Against KC, Razork looked like a completely different player. He was still doing the thing that he normally does, where he can get his leads early and he gets a gold lead and he's in command of the map, but he also was a lot more disciplined. He wasn't overfighting. He wasn't trying to solo win the game on his own anymore. He was just disciplined. And when I did my Oscar rating, I said, I'm not going to put that much faith in Oscar. He had the one Miracle series. I'm going to lean more on how he looked for the rest of the year. For Razork, I'm going to do the opposite, and I'm actually going to lean more towards how he looked in that series versus KC for two reasons. One, because I also thought that he looked fine in the MCOY series for the most part when they lost. And two, because I think the main reason why Razork is looking less aggressive now, or like less aggressive on bad timers, is because of the mid lane change. So I think that Poby coming in was really great for Razork, because now he has a mid laner who is more facilitating, more willing to play around the jungler, doesn't kind of lets the game come to them more. Whereas when you had Humanoid, it just felt like there was kind of a disconnect between the mid and the jungle. So both Humanoid and Razork were kind of overplaying their hand. They were both trying to do too much. So I have faith that Razork will be a more disciplined player now since he has Poby. It just feels like that mid-jungle synergy has been working out better than Razork ever did with Humanoid. So I'm going to bank on the idea that he will not be bad. So, ceiling. I think that Razork's ceiling is B tier and higher than Karsa's. Floor, I think we have to assume that his floor would be that he just regresses, right? That he just goes back to how he was playing before. And I think that floor is probably bottom of C. You could argue that floor is top of D, and maybe I should put that floor at top of D. Maybe. I guess that floor is top of D, because I mean, like when Razork was playing like that before, he was just kind of losing his team games. So yeah, top of B, top of D. And the question is, what am I going to lean more on? Because again, this floor assumes that he regresses, and this ceiling is saying, okay, what if he doesn't? What if he and Poby are just a good combo? And again, I want to lean more on the ceiling. So I'm going to hesitantly put Razork at the bottom of B. Next up, Skewmond. So Skewmond, again, is a very interesting case, because he had his problems in Split 2. In Split 2 and in Split 2 playoffs and MSI, he was too passive. The reason why G2 lost a lot of their games at MSI was because Skewmond wouldn't make plays, he wouldn't make anything happen early, and then because he's not doing anything, Labrov doesn't have anybody to pair up with, so Labrov wasn't doing anything either. And then because neither of them are getting any leads, Broken Blade and Caps were like, we're not getting any leads, we have to get leads, otherwise we're going to lose. And so they would overplay their hand, and then sometimes they would run it down. And, that's why we get stuff like the 0-5 Warwick top from Broken Blade. So at the end of MSI, I put Skewmond in C tier, like in my post-MSI, my post-MSI overview video. I put Skewmond in C tier retroactively. But then in Split 3, he and Labrov figured it out. I mean, like, Skewmond is playing a lot more aggressive now. He's making plays. He's working together well with his support, so there's good jungle support synergy going on. And then because he's playing better, Caps and Broken Blade are also more stabilized, so everything on G2 is just clicking better now. And I think that, though from what I could tell from watching it, it felt like it was clicking in a stable way. Like, I felt like they had actually figured it out. So I know that I put Skewmond too high for my MSI video. I'm going to put my faith in Skewmond again. I am going to say his ceiling will be A tier. I think that when Skewmond is at his best, he's playing very aggressive. When he has something like Pantheon is a pick that he's always been good at. And then he can run around the map and invade and make plays. I think he can be really good. I really like Skewmond's mechanics. So we'll say A tier ceiling. And then I also have faith in Skewmond to be consistent, because even though he was very passive at MSI, he also didn't make that many mistakes. Now, I know that he made some pretty bad mistakes. Like, I know that there's that one clip where he was diving somebody under the tower with Neferi, and then he forgot to press W to drop turret aggro, and he just died to a turret shot, and it looked really funny, and everybody laughed and whatever. I think for the most part, Skewmond is a pretty... Like, he used to be risk-averse. He takes more risks now, but he still doesn't run it down. Like, he doesn't have the run-it-down gene that some of the other junglers like Razork have. So I think that Skewmond's ceiling is going to be a little bit higher. I'll put Skewmond's ceiling, like, here, in between Junja and Histo. Overall, I'm going to say that Skewmond is a B tier jungler. I will put Skewmond, again, right behind Junja, I think is fair. Then we've got Elyoya. So I think all of the LEC junglers are pretty comparable. I think that Elyoya definitely outjungled Razork when they met up in both series. And then I think that Elyoya was doing well at certain facets of the game against G2, but overall Skewmont got the better of Elyoya in that individual matchup, so I mean Elyoya is gonna find his way and smack in here somewhere. I would say that when Elyoya is playing at his best, he is the best early game jungler in the world. I was super impressed with his ability to get leads for his team. He was doing it literally every single game. Even in the games when MKoy lost, he always found multiple ganks that were good. He always found multiple plays that could get his team a gold lead, which is super great. Yeah, I mean, we also know from past experience from other internationals that Elyoya is a player who can kind of tussle with the best. You know, he's had some pretty good individual games against teams like T1. He had the really good game against like LNG, stuff like that. So we know that he can step it up at internationals. And I know that a lot of people also say that he chokes internationals sometimes, but I think that I think really what you have to do is go back and look at some of the rosters he was working with, because like yes, sometimes the Mad Lions rosters he was on would underperform at Worlds, but when you look at the players, I mean, a lot of the players that he was playing with are literally just not in the league anymore because they weren't actually good enough. And then I also remember, like, my own personal opinion was that until people said something to me when I made the MKoy video, I never actually really thought of Elyoya as a international choker. Like, I know that he had the interviews at MSI where he was kind of saying like, oh, we as a team are too scared. Like, I'm too scared to make plays against these big name junglers. Like, I need to learn to turn the nameplates off and just play like myself. Like, he was saying stuff like that, but I don't know if I ever necessarily felt like his play felt scared. I don't know. I feel like if he never said that in the interview, people would be focusing on it way less. I'll say that Elyoya's ceiling will be. I mean, I'm down to put his ceiling like here. I think that if he plays at his best, he will be very, very good. His floor will put. I mean, this is weird. I'm going to put his floor here. So his ceiling is going to be quite a bit higher than Scumon's, and then his floor will be right below, but I'm still going to put Elyoya behind Scumon. I think that there's less of a chance Elyoya actually hits his ceiling than Scumon does. I think that the chance that Elyoya gets this high is pretty unlikely, and that will end up seeing him lean closer to his floor than we would for Scumon, so that's how I'm going to do that. Again, I think all three LEC junglers that are representing are at similar skill levels for the most part. LPL, Tarzan. Okay, let me do ceiling first. Tarzan's ceiling. I think that the best Tarzan has looked this year was Split 2 playoffs, grand finals against BLG, and then I also think he had an amazing MSI. I think that Tarzan's ceiling is pretty through the roof. I'm going to put Tarzan's ceiling here, behind Owner. I mean, okay, let me think about this rationally. I mean, like, it's World's Canyon, right? I'm going to put Tarzan's ceiling here. Again, I think that the chance that Canyon actually hits this ceiling is very, very low, but definitely possible. But yeah, I'll put Tarzan's ceiling below Canyon. I don't know if I've ever seen Tarzan do the stuff that Prime Inform Canyon does. Floor, though, Tarzan is a player who rarely makes mistakes. I mean, like, this guy, he can play pretty much every champion. He's leading the team in pretty much all of their big matches. People might point towards the 2023 LNG quarterfinals throw against T1, but I mean, like, I think that that's past us at this point. It's been long enough. He had a good MSI, so I think that Tarzan's floor is super, super high, and his ceiling is also pretty solid. Overall, I would say Tarzan is an S tier jungler. I'm going to put him in second. Next up, we got Beichuan. When Beichuan is playing at his best, he has the same strengths as Elyoya and Razork. He is a good early game jungler. He can get his team leads. He can get them ahead. His biggest problem is that every single time he gets to a mid and late game, he just kind of shits himself. I think that he had a really bad MSI. I think that he has had some terrible games in LPL. Like, he had an 0-8 Morgana game, which happened, which was one of the games of all time for sure. So I think that Beichuan at his ceiling is playing for all of his lanes and is making a few mistakes after early game. I think that there is no world where we get a Beichuan who doesn't make mistakes. So for his ceiling, I will put him here. For his floor, he can have some disaster games. I will put his floor probably there. And then so overall, that will put him here. I'm down for this. I'm down to put Beichuan there. No, I'm going to put Beichuan here. I'm just not a Beichuan believer, I'm sorry. Shadow. So Shadow also hasn't had the best split ever. He came in and saved BLG in playoffs a lot, but I mean, like, there's a reason why BLG keep on trying to start Beichuan is because neither of these junglers are actually that consistent. Like, Shadow stepped up when it mattered, which is awesome, but I don't think that he's going to be an insane player at this tournament or anything. I will put his ceiling above Beichuan's. I think that I've seen some stuff from Shadow that makes me really impressed, so I'm down to put his ceiling a little bit higher. And I also think that he is more consistent than Beichuan. I'll put his floor higher as well. I'll put his floor maybe here. And overall, I'm also going to slot him into B tier. It just depends on how high I want him. I think I'll put him here. I would say that he is close to the top of B. Overall, I don't really think that BLG has a good jungler. I think it is their weakest role. So putting both of them in B is okay to me. Wei is a very smart jungler. He makes a lot of good decisions. I think that he's the player who's impressed me the most when it comes to finding game-winning angles in games that I didn't think IG were going to win. So in that regard, I think he's super great. His mechanics are not very good compared to the rest of the field here. So a lot of times he'll go for a play that looks good on paper, and then he'll just screw the play up, and then it'll end up screwing over the entire team. So ceiling, I mean, I think he's still got a lot of the same qualities that he had when he was back-to-back MSI champion. I've seen him do a lot of very awesome plays. So I'll say that his ceiling is A tier. I'll put his ceiling up here. His floor, he could totally just screw up every single play. He might get completely ran by owner, and then that'll just be his tournament. I'll say that his floor is maybe down here. And overall, he will again be a B tier jungler. There's going to be a lot of B tier junglers. Again, I keep on reiterating it. This is a very elite jungle class. I will say that I think Wei will find himself right about here. Kanavi. Kanavi has had... I mean, I personally think Kanavi's had an inconsistent year. I don't know how everybody else feels, but I think that Kanavi's been pretty inconsistent. I know that I'm pretty sure he was first team All-Pro in like 2 different splits, but it doesn't really matter to me. I think he's made a lot of mistakes, but he's also been very good at different points too. He's definitely a big ceiling raiser for top esports. I think that putting in Kanavi over TN added a lot of potential for this roster. So, I mean, I also think that I will just have a lot of the top esports players a lot higher on my tier list than people will expect me to, because I think that in theory, the way that top esports plays when they're playing at their best is world's winners caliber play. But then the problem is that they just have these random chokes and throws, and then they just end up losing games that they should never be losing. So it's kind of weird. It's like, it's hard to rate players on a team like that, where it's like they're clearly playing world class until they're just randomly not. But I would say that Kanavi has been in the conversation for top 5 junglers all year long. So I will put Kanavi for his ceiling, I will put him in S. And then for his floor, I want to put him in B, I'm thinking. I don't think he's been that inconsistent, but he has been a little bit inconsistent. So I'll put Kanavi's floor in B. And then I will put him top of A. I don't think Kanavi is quite an S tier jungler, but I will put him top of A. Then we're moving into LTA. River, I think, is one of the better junglers in the LTA. His best trait is that he has very creative pathing when it comes to trying to find plays to get his team ahead. He's also a pretty solid team fighter. We've seen him showing up to internationals before. He's had good showings. I think that even when 100 Thieves had their really bad showing, River was not one of the main problems there. So River's ceiling, I think we can go B. I'm down for a B tier ceiling. And then for his floor, we will... I mean, I think that River is pretty consistent. I don't remember the last time that I thought that River was just completely shitting the bed. I think that his ceiling and his floor are pretty close to each other. I'll put River's floor, like here. I'll put River's floor there. And then overall, I would say that River is either a low B or high C jungler. I think I'm going to put River in low B. This tier list is going to look really weird because it's very top heavy. But again, I mean, like, every region just sent their best junglers for the most part. Then we got Inspired. Maybe this is going to be a hot take, but I would actually put Inspired ceiling at the very bottom of S. Some of the games that this guy played at MSI just blew my mind. I thought that the Sejuani game and the Trundle game against BLG were some of the best jungling I've seen all year. Like, when Inspired is in the zone, he is absolutely styling on everyone. I said this in the FlyQuest breakdown. I don't think Inspired has been raw out jungled a single time this year. Again, in MSI, he went up against G2, AL, BLG. I think against BLG, he was absolutely better than Beichuan. I think against AL, there wasn't a sizable gap between Tarzan and Inspired for it to matter. The gap was elsewhere. And then against G2, he obviously was a much better jungler than Skumond. So I think Inspired has shown that he has the ability to play toe-to-toe with the best of the best. I expect Inspired to have a very good tournament. So Inspired is not the type of player to make mistakes. He might be one of the most risk-averse junglers at the entire tournament. So he rarely ints, he rarely makes a game-losing play, and if he has a lead, he rarely throws it. So that makes his ceiling really, really high. Or not ceiling. That makes his floor really, really high. Maybe this is cope, but I want to put Inspired's floor in A tier. I would be pretty surprised if Inspired doesn't play at least as an A tier jungler. He's had weaker tournaments before. I think the last time that he had a bad tournament was MSI 2024. But to be fair, his mid laner was Jensen, so kind of hard to play the game. I'm going to put Inspired here. I've kind of said it all year. I think that Inspired is a top 5 jungler for the year. If I was going to do who I thought the best junglers this year were, my top 5 would be Tarzan, Canyon, and Owner, top 3, 100%. Those are my top 3 for the year. Number 4, Kanavi. Number 5, Inspired. That would be my top 5. Unfortunately, I don't have Canyon in my top 5 for my World's tier list because I think that Canyon was running it down a bit in summer. But I think that this tracks pretty closely with what my view on Inspired has been. I think he's the best Western player at the tournament. I think he's the best Western player that exists right now. So, and finally we have Desamis. Desamis, I mean, he's a pretty green jungler. No experience internationally, varying levels of success domestically, but I think he has a lot of talent. And he showed a lot of growth during LTA playoffs. I think he is a very good team fighter. He is fearless. He has a pretty solid eye for ganks and dives. And I overall, I don't think that there are very many players on VKS who are going to throw a lot of leads. I would say that Desamis, for his ceiling, I would put him last out of the field, but still in B tier. I still think that he has a B tier ceiling. Floor, I mean, there's a chance that he gets outclassed by everybody, I think. I think it would be fair to say that maybe there's a chance that, it's his first time at Worlds. Maybe the experience just gets a hold of him and he can't actually keep up with anybody else. Do I think that he is the type of jungler who can have a disaster level performance at that like maybe Karsa or Beichuan would have? No. I'll put Desamis' floor there. And then overall, I will put him in C. I'll put him... Who do I think is better, Karsa or Desamis? I mean, I think you could go either way, but I think I want to put Karsa ahead just because I did like how Karsa was playing towards the back half of the split. I thought the team really figured out something with Karsa, so there you go. That's my tier list. And let me think. Owner, Tarzan, Kanavi, Inspired, yes. Cuz, Canyon, and Peanut all being an A is about right for how I feel. I think maybe people might have problems with me having Cuz above Canyon, but that's just how I feel. I think that Canyon has looked worse as the year has gone on and Cuz has looked better, so I'm gonna stand on this hill and I will die on it. I'll probably end up regretting it because most likely Genji's gonna end up at least making it to like semis or grand finals or something, and then Canyon is gonna have a bunch of chances to have a pop off performance, and then KT's gonna go out and Swiss, and then so everybody's gonna be like, oh, you had Cuz over Canyon. It's like, yeah, sure, but I still just I don't know. I just don't think Canyon played that well. Junja, I think there's an argument you can move him up to A. I think there's an argument for putting Skumond over Shadow maybe, but Shadow did play really well in some of those playoff games. So yeah, I think argument Junjo could go to A would be fair. I think you could argue for Wei over Skumond. I think you could even argue for Elyoya over Skumond if you wanted. I don't think I would be too offended if somebody wanted to push his toe back a few spots. I just have a lot of belief in him as a player because I think that he is super promising. Yeah, no problems here. And then if I look at the ceiling list, I mean, I wouldn't have been able to tell you before I started the list that I was going to put everybody's ceiling in at least B, but again, I think it makes sense. Every region sent basically their best junglers. And then floors, same thing. Nobody's floor below D makes sense to me. So yeah, I'm okay with this. I'm down for this. Patreon shout out. I have a Patreon. Go check that out with the link in the description if you want to support me more while I'm making these videos. We have a lot of extra content up there. For one, a new inclusion is that I'm going to be posting these tier lists up there, so You can, it won't matter at this point. I don't even know why I'm saying this, because by the time that you see, I guess if the jungle video comes out and you're like, man, I really want to see that support tier list one day early, like, I guess that could be reason enough. I don't think there's really a point to do that, but there's other stuff on there. Any script that I write for a video, I post that before it goes out. If you subscribe to the $10 tier, I'll draw you a custom Poro. You can see it on the Patreon shoutout graphic right now. I've got a full unedited reaction to the T1 versus DRX Grand Finals series. I went back and I rewatched that recently. That will turn into a video at some point too, but that reaction is up there if you want to see it. I also have all of my Poro drawings up there, so anytime I draw a Poro, I will record the drawing session and then I'll post it unedited to the Patreon. So there's a lot of stuff up there, so go check that out if you're interested. I have nothing else for you. Mid lane is next. See you all next time. Bye.